everybody, and welcome to Storm Reads. And today I'm going to be talking about my June wrap-up. Now, I did some weekly reads videos, and that had pretty much most of the books that I'm going to be talking about, I think, in those weekly reads videos, so I won't go into too much details about any of these books. I just wanted to kind of put them all in a cohesive, hopefully cohesive, video so that everybody could see like all the books that I had read. Now, I read 18. There was 11 audiobooks, 1 print book, and 6 ebooks. And 2 of the books that I read this month I will not be talking about because they are part of the historical romance readathon that I am currently still doing, because it ends tonight, and so I have all the books that I have for that I want to wrap up separately. But still, that's 16 books to talk about, so I want to hurry up and not make this too long of a video. So, I did have 18 books on my TBR for June. Now, I looked to see if I read all the books on my TBR or if I strayed away. And I did. I read 11 books on that exact TBR, which, to me, I think that's pretty good because I'm a really big mood reader, and so I'm always like straying off of my TBR. So out of 18, I read 11, so I think that's pretty good for myself. And so let's just get into the books. And so the first one I have is Lady Ruthless by Scarlett Scott, and this is the first book in the Notorious Ladies of London series, and it was kind of a forced marriage, blackmailed into marriage type. It was pretty enjoyable. I really liked the Earl of St. Clair, and I liked Lady Calliope. I think the forced marriage thing is a little bit weird to me and everything, but it really worked in this scenario, I think, and I liked it, so I gave it 3 stars. And then I went ahead and continued on with that series and read Lady Wallflower by Scarlett Scott, and it's the second book in the Notorious Ladies of London series, and this one I liked it a little bit better. This one was about Jo Danvers, who is a wallflower. She's tired of seeing her friends all get married, and she's kind of on the back burner. So she makes a list of wicked things to do, which is how she meets Elijah Decker, who decides he wants to help her with the list. And the banter back and forth between those two were a lot of fun and everything. And I just really liked them a lot better. Now, I don't want to say anything without like spoiling it, but there is a situation that happens between them towards the end that kind of, I guess, turned the tides on everything that was happening here, but it was really good. I liked it, and so this one I gave 4 stars to. Okay, so the next book I have is Murder Takes Two by Carol J. Perry. This is number 10 in the Witch City series. And this one I listened to on audio. It's one of my favorites to listen to on audio. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I really like Lee and the people in the Salem and everything. I like her Aunt Libby and everything. They're all a lot of fun, and it's just a real fun, cozy. And I just have a lot of fun with this series. It's lightly paranormal, not real like strongly paranormal. So if you're not really into paranormal, I think you'd be okay with this one. But if you're hoping it's going to be really, really heavy into paranormal, because it is called Witch City and it is set in Salem, then you'll be a little disappointed because it's not real paranormal. But I liked it anyway. It's number 4 stars. I don't know if I said that, but 4 stars. Then I have Rising Danger by Jerusa Agin, I'm not sure how you say her last name. I should probably look that up. But anyway, this was a canine suspense story. It was a love-inspired suspense. And so it was mostly focused on the story and not the romance. This one has Bristol, who worked for the PK9 security and detective agency, and she is having to work with her ex-boyfriend to try to find some bombs there, because there was a bomb threat on these dams and everything. And so it was very action-packed. It's just very fast-paced, and I really, really enjoyed it. Did not bother me that there wasn't a lot of romance in it. I was really in it to find out who it was that was planting these bombs around, so I was really into that, so it didn't bother me. And so I super liked it, and I gave this one 5 stars. It was an e-arc that I got from Harlequin, and I'm really excited. I decided to give that one a go. Then the next book I have is A Death Long Overdue by Eva Gates, and this is number 7 in the Lighthouse Library series. Another one of series that I enjoy. It's not maybe one of my favorites, but I enjoy it. And this one is about Birdie, who is having a reunion with a bunch of librarians and people that she went to school with. And somebody, of course, ends up dead that was associated with them, and Lucy has to figure out what happened. And I enjoyed it, and I gave it 4. And then the next one I have is Murder She Knit by Peggy Earhart, and this is the Knit and Nibble number 1, and it's about Pamela, who is a widow, and she's on her own since her daughter's in college, and so she started up kind of a knit and nibble group, which is where, I guess, you know, they just sit around, talk about knitting and do some knitting, and then they nibble on some food, so knit and nibble and everything. I thought this one was okay, kind of a little, to me it was a little slow start to a cozy. It didn't really grab me as much as I would hoped it would, so I gave it 3 stars. I will continue on with the series to see if I will like it or not. I know sometimes it's just really hard to base it on the first in the series when it comes to cozies, if I'm going to like it, because there's a lot of setup and a lot of people that you're getting to know and things like that. But I liked it, I just didn't love it. And so hopefully the next one will just grab me a little bit more. The next one I have is The Library of the Dead by T.L. Hachu, and this is Edinburgh's Nights number 1, and it's about Ropa, who can speak to the dead, and she's called the Ghost Talker, and it's kind of like an alternate universe of some sort, kind of a, I don't know. It's just not like your normal world. It seems like it's a little bit different, so I think it's kind of maybe an alternate kind of world type thing that they have going on. It wasn't bad. I gave it 3 stars. It was a little slow in places. I wished it would have been a little bit more faster paced. I did start to like it a lot more towards the end. I may give the second one a try to see if I like it or not. Like I said, sometimes you have to give a series just more than one book to see if you're really going to be invested in it or not. And this one I got for audio for review from Macmillan. I believe I said I gave it 3 stars, but I'm not sure if I did or not. And the next one I have is One Night to Claim It All by Adriana Herrera. And this was a Harlequin Desire novel about Esmeralda, who inherits a television company from her father, who she never had much contact with. He didn't want anything to do with her because she was illegitimate and everything, so she ends up inheriting the position of CEO, but she has to fight for it. The board of directors said that they want to make sure she actually can handle the job, so she's got 1 week to come up with like the best laid plan on how to move forward with the company. If not, then her ex-boyfriend Rodrigo is going to get the spot, so she's having to fight against him. And yeah, it was pretty steamy, I thought, anyway, for me. And I gave it 4 stars. 4 stars though, because I really did enjoy it, and I got this as an e-arc from Harlequin. And the next book I have is Yarn to Go by Betty Heckman. This is the Yarn Retreat number 1, and this was a re-listen for me. It's about Casey, who's a baker, and her aunt dies, and she finds out that her aunt ran a yarn retreat, and there was one on the books, and it's in 2 weeks, and it's too late to cancel, so she decides to go ahead and give the retreat and everything. And then of course somebody at the retreat dies, and she has to figure out what happened. I enjoy it. I give it 4 stars. I am currently, I think, on number 5 of this series. I did a re-listen of it because it was part of the Killing Time with Cozy's knockout challenge, and so I was afraid I probably wouldn't remember a whole lot about it, which I was correct, because I couldn't even remember who the guilty party was. So yeah, so it was a decent re-listen. And then listen to Monk and the Firehouse by Lee Goldberg, and this is about Monk, who has to move out of his house temporarily because it has termites or whatever, and Natalie lets him stay with her, and of course while he's there, the Firehouse dog is murdered, and he has to figure out what happened. And of course, in the process of figuring out what happened there, he figures out like 3 or 4 other murders or whatever. I mean, that's just how Monk rolls, you know. So it was the first one in the Mr. Monk series, And it was decent. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. And then the next one I have is my only print book that I have, and Operation Snare by Eva Gladstone. This is Molly Ryder is a linguist, and her tape recorder was stolen, and it seems like she might have taped a conversation that somebody doesn't want her to know about, and she gets involved with this guy here who is the assistant district attorney, Rick, and he works for Operation Snare, and what she might have accidentally taped has something to do with the Operation Snare. And so of course they've got to figure out what it is exactly that's on there, because it was stolen and she's not sure who the voices are, and they have to do all that kind of stuff, and he's not sure at first if she was involved in any of it or not. But yeah, this was a Harlequin intrigue, and this one was from 1987, I believe. Yeah, it's from 1987, so it was kind of interesting to see how a book from back then actually was Harlequin compared to some of the Harlequins I've read nowadays. And I gave it 3 stars. Then the next one I have is Premeditated Peppermint by Amanda Flowers. It's the 3rd book in the Amish Candy Shop series, and I'm really starting to enjoy this series, though in this one I was a little aggravated with a couple of the characters in it. They were just kind of made me roll my eyes a lot. This one it was at Christmas time in Harvest, and Bailey and her grandmother's busy making lots of peppermint, and her ex shows up with camera crew and wants to do a Christmas special and involving her aunt's store, which her aunt is Amish, but she's not, and so she's like, it's up to her aunt and the Amish community if he can film or whatever there, and she's not really happy that he's there. The one character that drove me crazy was her friend Cass, because I feel like she was just a little bit bossy in this one, because I'm going to be her manager, and this is what's going to happen, and we're going to be able to do this, this, and this. If she's going to be on your show, then, and she was just a little bossy. And then Juliet makes me roll my eyes a lot, because she has already shipped her son and Bailey together, and she's already got them all married off, and they haven't even been on their first date. And so sometimes I just want to smack her around a little bit and tell her to shut up. But overall, I enjoy this series, and I gave it 4 stars. Then the next one I have is Murder on Sisters Row by Victoria Thompson, and this is the 13th book in the Gaslight series. And I'm slowly catching up with this series, slowly. I think there's 24 or 25 in the series, so I still got a ways to go. But this one is about Sarah, who's called out for a delivery at a brothel, and she didn't exactly know that it was a brothel when she went to go to the delivery, and then she ends up getting involved in some things there, because the lady that's there wants out of the brothel, and she wants to help her, but then there's a lot of lies and a lot of things, and then somebody dies and all that kind of stuff, and she just kind of gets wrapped up into it, as always. And so, but it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Denied by Mary Kaliiko, and this is Kelly Pruitt number 2. And this one is Kelly is a private eye, and she is asked by a friend if she would find her father who is missing. She thinks, oh, well, this will be a simple missing persons case, but no, it's not quite as simple as she thought it would be, and she ends up in a few life or death situations along the way. So yeah, it wasn't quite as simple as it was supposed to be. And it was really enjoyable. I had a lot of fun trying to figure out who it was, and it did have a little bit of a twist at the end that, totally kind of took me off guard, so I kind of liked that. And I gave it 4 stars. I also got this as an e-arc from Camel Press. And then the next one I have is A Dark and Secret Place by Jen Williams, and this is about Heather, who is estranged from her mother, and she comes back home because her mother committed suicide, and it was just kind of all of a sudden thing, and she finds all these letters and stuff like that her mother was writing to a serial killer, and then she finds out that she was in a commune whenever she was a teenager, so she feels kind of like she didn't know her mother at all, and so she starts to look into that, and she gets involved with a detective who lets her go to the prison to talk to the serial killer that's there, so she can try to figure out what was going on with her mother. And then come to find out, well, maybe her mother didn't commit suicide. Maybe something happened, and then she keeps feeling like somebody's watching her, and there's a lot of spooky, kind of creepy moments in it. And I thought it was enjoyable. I gave it 3 stars because there were some parts that were just really slow. It didn't really grab me. The Heather, I could kind of take her or leave it. She was just kind of an in-between character that I didn't really care for, but I didn't really dislike. And so, yeah, I gave it 3 stars. But I got this from an e-arc, also from Crooked Lane Press, or Crooked Lane Books, or whatever. But I did like it. And so the last book that I have to talk about is The Town by Bentley Little. This one is about Gregory and his wife, who are lottery winners, and they decide to move back to Gregory's hometown. It was a small hometown. They are of Russian descent, called the Molokans. I think that's how they were called. Anyway, would they have a belief that when you move, you should ask the man of the house to come with you? It's kind of like a blessings thing, and he's supposed to like protect you. But when they moved, they forgot to ask the man of the house to come with them, and their mother, Gregory's mother, is coming with them, and she's really upset because they forgot to ask him, because she's really more into her Russian belief system than they are. They're like, okay, it's just a silly superstition. They don't really believe that much into it. Then they get there, and some strange things starts happening while they're in the town. First, nobody tells them that the town that they bought was actually a place where a murder happened and everything. And then just some really weird things start to happen. The grandmother thinks that it's because they didn't ask the man of the house to come. And I don't know if I can say what his name is. His name is Jaduska de Movaduska, or something like that. Anyway, I thought that was kind of a fun folklore, Russian folklore, that I didn't know anything about. I looked it up to see if there was actual, and it is actual kind of a Russian folklore, so that was kind of cool. But things happen, and I wasn't really that impressed. I gave it 2 stars. There were just things in it that just wasn't to my taste. I don't think other people probably wouldn't care, but it was just really, it was to my taste. I didn't like that their preacher, I don't know if he was a priest or a preacher or reverend or whatever, but anyway, man of God, was killed by Bibles. Like, they were flying all around and like paper cutting and all that. I just didn't like that. It rubbed me the wrong way. And then the 13-year-old son of this couple, he turns 13 in the book, and he is I know he's being affected by the evil in the town, but he starts to like fantasize about his older sister, and he gets a pair of her panties and he has them in his room, and he's fantasizing and he's doing things, and that's just not me. I don't really care to read about little kids doing bad sexually things. It creeps me out. It makes me go ooh. I just didn't like it. You know, and like I said, that's my preference. Somebody else may not care, but I did. And so it kind of ruined it, kind of put it down. It was kind of slow anyway, and I don't know. I thought the folklore and like the mythology about the man of the house and that kind of stuff was cool, but the storyline I just wasn't a huge fan of. And then the ending was just a little strange and out there too, so yeah, 2 stars. But that was my retro horror read. I had to change retro horror reads if you watched my TBR, because I forgot that book that I was going to listen to was on Scribd, and I got rid of Scribd, so then I was like, oh, I have to find a new book, so I found this one on Hoopla. And so it worked. Anyway, but yeah. So that's all the books. There are, like I said, there are 2 more books that I did read, but they will be on a separate wrap-up with the Historical Romance Readathon. And so I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!